Right, so I have returned once again to deliver yet another episode of Sangatsu no Lion Season 2, this episode being episode 2. And where we left off last time, we actually kind of got... That one didn't spook me, just I kind of just saw it coming. I was like, hey, there's YouTube. So yes, we left off last time. It was kind of a heartwarming episode when it came to Ray's development, because he kind of he found a place to be, like kind of a place where he belongs, kind of, and actually kind of socialized. It was actually kind of nice. I mean, Sensei and Noguchi was kind of so goddamn cool because of it. I was like, yes, he's actually finally found that place. I mean, it was actually kind of nice. So you kind of you hope it just continues that way, because this is kind of the stepping stones for his character, and I actually kind of liked it for that reason, to say the words correctly. So yeah, this episode is actually kind of going to be a little bit more on the emotional side, because this one kind of deals with a lot more things. I mean, because I've read the manga, so I actually kind of preemptively know what's coming next. So yeah, this one's going to be quite... This is one of my favorite parts of the whole entire manga. I actually absolutely adore this part, because it is so brilliantly done. It is impeccable. It's impeccable. Like, if you just... It's beautiful. It's beautiful, this part. I won't say any more, because what's the point? But, oh, it is nice. And good old Crunchyroll was late. Yeah, that's the one thing I actually kind of liked about the season so far. They're kind of easing us into it. It's actually kind of nice, because I don't really think it was actually kind of very left field last season, because it kind of did balance itself pretty damn well last season as well. But this one's it's one of those ones that it kind of nicely eases you back in. But I'd imagine, yeah, the train's gonna come in the scene anyway, the Phil's train, because it does. I mean, it happens in like a fair number of chapters actually. Yeah, very, 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 very hard, heavy and hard Phil trains. Phils. Hopefully Crunchyroll kicks in any second now, because they've been very temperamental today. Come on, Crunchyroll. You can do it. I believe in you. That was weird. Don't use Max to run Flash Player. They don't like it. The fact it's actually a thing, you have to actually kind of allow it to use it first. Otherwise, it doesn't actually do it first time around. You're like, oh, thanks for that. Now I have it, because Crunchyroll just wasn't working. It just wasn't loading the actual episode. That thing gives you the thumbnail, but doesn't actually give you the episode. It's really weird, because sometimes my Mac doesn't actually like using Flash, because Flash isn't kind of very, very optimized on the Mac. So it's actually kind of... It's a bit annoying, because the same thing happens with Junior Tyson as well. The manga, I actually can't cover it sometimes, or sometimes that takes me a while to cover it, because I have to kind of get Viz, the Flash plate, and my Mac to work. So eventually it does, but it's a bit annoying. So anyway, let's see what goes down in this episode of Sangatsu no Lion. Yeah, I never understood why either, but it's just one of those things. I think it doesn't use Flash too many times, just because it's there as kind of a backup. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But anyway, let's begin this thing in 3, 2, 1. Let's begin now. Oh, the OP! Begins on the OP. Begins on the OP. The nice OP. It pretty much is at this point. It's horrible. The HTML code is actually even worse for my Mac. It just slows everything down. I never understood why either, because I remember it came out on YouTube. You can use HTML5 video instead of Flash, but it doesn't work either. It's just like Mac just doesn't like anything. I remember the days of 25 minutes. I used to love those days, the 25-minute days. It's about exactly 25 minutes. You're like, yes, full episode of anime. I remember people used to go nuts when ReZero was 25 minutes long. It's like, yes, it's 25 minutes. I think this one, Garu and Junior Tyson are my favorite. I think fourth one is probably Inuyashiki's one. I think I prefer this one just because of this visual storytelling. This one's just phenomenal. It's beautiful. But yeah, this episode, watch this episode. This episode's really freaking amazing. The manga floored me at this point. I was like, that. There it is. Did the whole Jeff Goldblum meme. I went, well, there it is. The Jeff Goldblum meme. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We get our boy back as well. That's the other thing to note. There he is. There's our boy. There's our boy. You know, I actually also found out recently he's actually voiced by Bakugo from My Hero Academia. I actually found out recently. I was like, oh my god, mate! I actually can hear it now. Who doesn't love Nikaido? He's the best character in the whole entirety of anime. He's impeccable. He's the best boy. Actually, everyone's best boy in this one. Actually, speaking of the devil, that's Abuto from Gintama, isn't it? Now I just realised. I love Ray's entrance in that scene. Just walks in like completely normal. He's got Nikaido just screaming in the background. Oh, there he is! There he is! There's the man himself. There's the man himself. It's the man of the hour. Oh man, I love him so much now. He doesn't make his actions beforehand any more better, but it's nice the fact he actually stuck up for Shimada. I was like, stuck up for my husband. Surprisingly, yeah, he actually is. Oh, they've nailed this so well. They've nailed this so goddamn well. This is actually so goddamn great. Holy crap, they've done this so well. That was done so goddamn well. That was beautifully done. Chef got to start because if they do any more, they will actually seriously ascend to like beyond gods at this point. Hello, how's it going? This episode is masterful so far. They've actually nailed every single thing I wanted them to nail so goddamn well. Because it's actually my favorite part of the whole entire manga besides the next arc. Just that line as well. It's just it just Poochie be best priest. Poochie's best priest. I am in 1104. 1104 currently. Oh my god, this. Oh god, this episode is so goddamn good. This episode's amazing. They've actually nailed my favorite part so goddamn well. It's actually sending goosebumps on my spine. It's that goddamn good. The OST is just so freaking amazing. I bet on Poochie as well, to be honest. Oh yeah, I need to finish that at one point. Don't worry, I'll finish it. I miss that guy so much as well. He's so goddamn funny. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's actually quite well done because it's purely off screen. Like it's one of those off screen relationships. It's just done so goddamn well and characterized so goddamn well. It's a very neat thing because it's quite hard to do that because sometimes it's a passing reference, but there they actually do in theory characterize it so damn well. Those guys are so goddamn scared they actually were suspended in the air, flying. Like not flying, but running, you know what I mean? Suspended in one spot, just running. They were that damn scared and surprised. It kind of meshes both together, but it's a drama, I would say, more than comedy. Just kind of it does its comedy really well as well. It knows when it's like in Tama, it knows how to balance it. It's a mighty serious anime as well. At this point, So is like the most terrifying character in the whole entire manga and anime as well. But you think about it, he hasn't really said that much either. He's very kind of, just very, he has that presence, if you get what I mean. He has that presence that he doesn't have to say anything. You can just like, he can scare you just by being there. You're like, whoa, hello. And this one's really worth it. I would actually recommend watching this show. Oh man, it's animation though. It's animation. His OST is so goddamn good. I believe actually it's a denim shirt. Actually, I have zero idea. Actually, I just bought it. I'm like, that's quite good. Just bought it. They've done this so goddamn well. They've done this so damn well. I can honestly say I actually haven't actually had a moment in my life where I wanted to punch a wall. I mean, I think possibly Neo maybe wanted to punch a wall before, but I've kind of contained myself. Same thing with Bloodborne. I kind of wanted to punch through my wall sometimes, but I've kind of contained myself. So I haven't really kind of ever had those moments. But I guess the Underground sometimes does it to me as well. I'm just like, please, Lord of Christ, just get me home. But I've really kind of that was a masterpiece of an episode. If Anime News Network does not give that any less than an A+, I would be pissed, because that was pitch perfect. It was done so brilliantly. Everything was to a T. Nothing was out of place. Everything was implemented perfectly. The animation, the soundtrack, it was outstanding. They nailed my favorite part of the manga so far, besides the next arc. No, I never kind of ever had like a outburst when I wanted to punch something like legit. I've kind of just always contained my anger. Don't know why. Either that, or I just go and watch an opening of something that kind of calms me down. It's like, oh yeah, life ain't so bad. Oh, even the end card's amazing as well. That's an end card and a half. Like, the artwork amazing. Alrighty. Let's sit down for like a good while and just speak about how amazing this episode was. Oh, now you've seen the other side of Gothor's character that I've been actually kind of waiting for to be animated, because man, oh freaking man, of this whole entire point, he's kind of been painted to be this kind of asshole, this kind of character you're not to enjoy. Though it's kind of still there. You don't technically tend to kind of change your opinion ever so slightly, but you see a kind of a different side of him, the more compassionate side, the more kind of weaker side, the person who's kind of missing the person he actually kind of fell in love with. All those emotions. It was brilliantly told, because it's one of those relationships that you don't tend to actually kind of see on screen. As someone pointed out in the stream, you don't ever kind of see it you don't ever see it on screen. You never kind of ever see it there. But it's always referenced so perfectly that you just kind of you get the idea behind it. Like, it was one of those ones you get the idea behind it. It was so brilliantly done. I was like, man. But yeah, I mean, it kind of then paints Ray's character as someone who actually kind of doesn't know the real picture here. He's only seeing what he's seeing. It's kind of like us. We kind of have those first impressions that we kind of paint on a character to a point until it gets revealed and actually kind of then sidetracks to a different kind of opinion. It's one of those things that happens to everyone. We never ever in our lives kind of go beyond that first impression. Sometimes it's always kind of like that. It's always happened throughout this whole entire anime as well, and manga as well. The idea of a first impressions and how you actually kind of see that person, like how Momo saw Kyoko the first time around, how she called her a witch, all those things. When in theory she's not. She's kind of a person who's kind of very freaking broken. The same thing with Gotor's character as well. Gotor's character is a very broken person. He's kind of a person who's very lacking in a lot of regards. The idea of compassion, all those things, he hasn't really felt that idea of love in a very long time, and it can eat away at a person. It can destroy a person to no end. It's one of those things. It's horrible to actually have to watch someone like that, because you're like, damn. So he kind of looked for it somewhere else. I mean, Kyoko doesn't kind of fully embody the idea of what he wants, but she's kind of there to actually kind of console him in certain ways, kind of there to actually kind of just ease the emotions, if you get what I mean. And that whole entire section where he just kind of just like lays there on top of her and like kind of that pale face, you know fully at that stage how much of a broken person he is. It's with no words besides Kyoko's actual in the monologue. There's no words. It's just his expressions. You just get that whole entire thing, especially even at the hospital. You just got everything you need to know just from how well it's visually told. It was just one of those things. I actually love this side of the manga because it just was brilliantly told. It was amazing. It was just it's emotional because you're kind of like, you just understand the character, who he is. You know, I mean, it doesn't kind of, in a way, paint his kind of actions beforehand any better. Don't get me wrong. He's a person who's trying to cope with losing someone, or losing someone, that he kind of he kind of doesn't know how to actually kind of control his emotions sometimes. When people start to question him, he doesn't actually know how to kind of console that argument. It's one of those things that happens to a lot of people. I mean, I've seen it in films. I mean, recently I watched The Girl and the Influence, where Nick, one of the characters, he does not know himself how to actually kind of show his emotions, actually kind of then just talk someone down until he actually kind of goes into a fight with someone. It does happen a lot of times. People just doesn't know how to kind of express themselves. But Ray, on the other hand, he sees a surface level area and doesn't actually kind of realize the whole entire picture. It's actually happens quite a lot. Like, in essence, I wouldn't really call him an unreliable narrator, because he technically isn't like that. But at the same time, he doesn't know the full picture. And sometimes he does tend to run certain things that's kind of like, oh no, fam, just don't say those things. It happened. Oh, jeez, it will happen later on. I tell you, there's one certain section where it happens, and you just kind of like, Ray, don't say those things. It's okay. It's okay. Control your emotions, because it's true. He does tend to kind of sometimes just see certain things not on the kind of the deeper level. He starts like kind of playing God, like how Gotor says it. I mean, yeah, Gotor's way of actually kind of going about the whole entire thing wasn't completely just. It wasn't like the best way of doing things, but it's kind of like Ray maybe should just kind of, I don't know. He's an interesting character, I would say. I mean, he's trying to play the sister. That's kind of a major thing, but he doesn't actually technically know the kind of the full picture, the full story. He's only kind of there and seeing what's going on. It's one of those things that certain things happen like that because of it. So now you know the full picture. It kind of then changed the perception slightly on his character. Now you kind of like, he's got his compassionate side. I mean, yeah, it's not all the time. I mean, even when he shows a compassionate side, he's still a very, very cold person. He doesn't kind of expel anything that kind of ever paints him to be anything else other than cold and kind of very, very just kind of unapproachable in a way. Even when he's actually kind of being nice to Shimada, it's one of those things that it's kind of like, it still kind of doesn't, I don't know, it still feels cold. If it feels cold, it doesn't actually feel like it's a warm part. You know, they're like, oh man, he's a pretty cool guy. Like, he's still Goto, if you get what I mean. Like, he's two different people living inside the same person sometimes. It's kind of interesting for that reason. You're kind of like, yeah, he's kind of sometimes a nice dude, but it's still just him. You just don't know how to react when you see him like that, because like, holy cow. So there is a compassionate side to that man. It's just it's surprising. It's one of those things that kind of catches you off guard when you first see it. It's actually interesting for that reason. I actually quite like that as well, because it's one of those ones that you just can't take the kind of face value of a person, because you just don't know what's going on behind closed doors, especially with his character. It's very much evident. You just didn't know what was really going on there. But again, I wouldn't necessarily call Ray at this section, at this very point, an unreliable narrative, because he really isn't. What he was doing was kind of just, he's protecting his sister. Didn't really know what was going on, but he was protecting his sister, so I understand what he was trying to do. It's one of those things. I don't call him an unreliable narrative at this point, because he isn't kind of one of those. But at the same time, it's one of those ones like, yeah, he's a real person. Look, now feeding back into what I was saying about Inuashiki, he's a real person. He's technically not a villain, but he's kind of a real man going through his own things, trying to cope with what's going on. He's not a villain. Yeah, it's what I kind of like. It's kind of feeds back into the whole quote that I kind of said in the Inuashiki that kind of everyone just kind of got pissed off at me about. It's the fact that he's a real person going through real things. He isn't have anything that's make believe. What he's going through is absolutely terrible, but it's just kind of, he has his own way of kind of coping with it, which isn't what we actually imagine what we actually imagine a person to be like in our own hearts. If we would imagine him to be kind of a little bit less like punching in that sense, but it's one of those things that sometimes when someone eggs you on so much, you kind of just lose all self-control, and you just lash out. It's a kind of like it's a human thing. It's just one of those things. It's human. Like, it's kind of not as if it's out of the blue or anything like that. It's a human thing. Sometimes a person just kind of rolls you up so much, you just lose all self-control. It's just not a problem. But it's kind of like there's different ways of coping with said idea. I mean, he could have just went, no, Ray, I will not suit for this. But it was kind of like, it's interesting for that reason, because you kind of like, who's kind of on the wrong side here? Is it Ray? Is it Goto? I mean, Goto's kind of whole entire thing was the fact he could have coped with it a bit better. I mean, Ray didn't really know what was going on, so he actually kind of took it to surface level and actually kind of then protected his own sister. So it's all those things. There's not really a kind of necessarily a bad person here, but it's kind of one of those things that certain people might have different opinion on certain characters. I mean, you might side more with Ray because he's the protagonist, but at the same time, certain times he kind of gets the wrong idea. That's the kind of major thing. I mean, yeah, it's what we saw beforehand isn't kind of painting Goto to be a good person. It's kind of like he's making Kyoko suffer. It's one of those things. Like, in essence, Kyoko is suffering because of that relationship, because it's kind of very one-sided. She's looking for compassion, technically so is he. So it's one of those things, it breaks apart the kind of barrier between Goto and Kyoko as well. Kyoko and Goto kind of had that barrier in between, like, certainly in season 1, because we didn't really know what was going on. So you kind of saw like a relationship that's like actually didn't make much sense. It was like you can see what she was trying to do. She was basically looking for someone to console with, kind of show her emotions. Yeah, it's true. But then once season 2 rolls along and actually kind of explains what's going on with Goto's character, you do generally see a similarity in their characters. They're two people looking for what they've lost. Like, in essence, Goto's looking for the love he lost, and Kyoko's looking for a kind of just something like a whole. It's one of those things that they're kind of very similar in that regard. They're not kind of very kind of far apart at this point. So it's actually kind of interesting to think about it, because beforehand it was kind of like, oh yeah, you kind of really don't see what's going on here, but then you realize, oh crap, that's what's going on. And it just kind of breaks apart that barrier. And I thought it's actually kind of neat how well it's done, because you don't really notice it first time until you realize, oh yeah, they're not too dissimilar. Because it was beforehand, you were like, yeah, I wonder what Kyoko's trying to do there. But now that you realize, oh, that's what's going on, you're like, yeah, they're basically very similar in that regard. They're very two opposites that kind of almost align in certain regards, but at the same time, it's like they can't technically ever fully be together, if you get what I mean, because technically it's a bit complicated there. But it's interesting for that reason. I'd say it's very interesting because you're kind of like, I see it now. It was kind of neat that he actually stood up for Shimada, because it was kind of horrible that people were kind of saying that against him, because it's kind of tough for a person to lose a game, and a game that was kind of very vital to him as well. It's one of those things. It's kind of as if it wasn't anything like a normal game to him. It was kind of a very, very personal thing, a very, very personal fight. So losing that does, in theory, kind of kill you slightly inside. But it's one of those things, you shouldn't ever bring down a person just because they're lost, because they've got to pick up the pieces once again and actually kind of carry on. It's one of those things. I mean, yeah, it is horrible, because you've been fighting for that goddamn long just to lose like that. It's kind of terrible. But at the same time, you've got to leave the person to themselves to actually kind of then pick up those pieces, because again, they will win on their own, as Goto mentions. It was kind of nice. I thought, man, he said the truth and basically said, look, you guys have never been in a title match, so just piss off and stop saying things, because you just don't know what it's like. And it's kind of true. If people don't know what it's like, they can't actually ever sympathize with that person. They can only say things they think is the correct thing, but never can actually fully understand how that person feels. It is actually kind of true, because it's with everything. People will try to console you about a lot of things, but they truly don't understand fully your own emotions. It's a very universal thing in that regard, but it's actually kind of brilliantly told in this storyline, because Shima is not actually kind of present in that scene, but you really get to understand his character and actually really do like it. It was one of those ones that it kind of just proves to you, like, look, just don't say things you shouldn't be saying right now, because no one understands fully what that man's going through. He's lost the game. Just leave him to his own devices. He will get back up one day and actually carry on and win and win and win. Just don't bring the person down, because what's the point? You're no better than anyone else at this point. You're no better than an average Joe off the street. What's the point ever trying to bring down that person? Stop it. So that was actually one of the more neater parts as well. Just by the fact he went, look, just shut up. It was a very gratifying moment from a character you wouldn't ever find a gratifying moment from, because again, beforehand, before we got that kind of moment, you're like, Goto's kind of an asshole, like not a very good person. But now you're kind of like, oh, he's kind of he's got a compassionate side to the man. He's an ite man. He's an ite man, as they would say. I mean, he's not technically kind of redeemed himself fully just yet. He isn't kind of in the realms of 100% husbando, but he's about a good 65% at this point. Like he's got my vote in certain regards. I mean, I understand fully what's going on with his character now, so it kind of just has a different picture of him. So I like it for that reason. Really do. I thought it's really neat. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I find it interesting when people do just like disagree with other people. I wouldn't say you shouldn't trust him, because he's one of those characters who you just don't know. That's the major thing with Goto's character. You just don't know. There's a lot of the characters in this anime. You never know fully what's really going on, because same thing happens with Soya as well. Soya hasn't really said many words in the whole entire series, to my recollection at least. He hasn't really kind of said many words, but his presence in the actual anime is terrifying. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It was a very respectful shutdown. The only one he kind of shut down was the other people. Like he only shut down the other people because technically they were kind of being a bit assholish. Because if I remember correctly, yeah, I never pronounced his name correctly. I call him Yana. Yana didn't really say anything that was kind of, to my recollection from watching the episode, was kind of very out of place, because he basically just said, "Look, people just kind of get up on their own. Like they have to kind of pick up their shattered pieces, just carry on." It's one of those things. It wasn't. It was kind of. I say, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think so. He's said a line at all in his whole entire anime so far. Yeah, it's not. He hasn't technically said any. He hasn't said anything that's actually kind of out of the ordinary. But a lot of the other people were bringing Shimada down. He's not saying what actually does happen afterwards, because unless you experience it, you just don't know. But yeah, Soya's character is interesting for the reason that the fact is he's terrifying, even though he doesn't say a single word. His presence just emanates this idea of, like, you just don't know what he will do. You don't know how he will react. You don't know what he will do. It's kind of one of those unpredictable characters. He's probably the most unpredictable character in the whole entire show, because he's literally zero idea what he will do, what he will say, and how he actually does in theory then fight, because his fighting style is quite interesting, because you just don't notice it until you actually realize, oh, God, I've lost. It's one of those things, you're like, oh, I've lost. It's so well done. You're just like, damn. So he's actually interested for that regard. You just never know fully what's really going on with Soya's character. And I like that. It's a mysterious kind of idea. So yeah, I mean, in that regard, Soya's character is actually freaking amazing, because it's just unpredictable as all F. He's like, please, love of Christ, don't do anything drastic to my boys. All right. But hopefully my husband, Shimoda, actually does in theory get back up and actually just carries on. I mean, I know he does, but because I read the manga, but I mean, I want to see that animated. I want to see his comeback animated. Just be like, my boy's back. My husband's back. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a fantastic episode. It really kind of brought back what I love about the series in the anime form. The OST is phenomenal. I mean, goddamn, certain scenes were just amazing because of the OST. The OST just makes the whole entire show. There were certain bits that was like, ooh, yes, the OST. The OST. I've not experienced Young Metro yet, so I actually have zero idea. I never experienced Young Metro. But yeah, even the animation nailed like certain scenes, just even more than the manga itself. Like, it's just, I don't know how Shaft do it, but Shaft just do it every single damn time. You're just like, god damn, how do you do this, Shaft? What is your secrets? What is your secrets? Tell us your secrets, because by God, I would love to know. Because they did do everything so goddamn well to a T. Like, the whole entire flashback was done so goddamn well. Goto's scene was done impeccably well done. The scene in the hospital was literally emotional because of the said reason, just because it was literally just visuals. It was done so goddamn well. I was like, man, good job there. I mean, it's a perfect episode. It's a masterpiece of an episode. It really is, because it's one of those ones that I was expecting it to be literally perfect, but it was even more so than I actually imagined beforehand. I was like, yes, you actually did it. You actually just 100% nailed the episode I want you to nail. Just so goddamn well so far. It is it's just impeccably implemented, the OST. It's there. It's just and Nikaido's back as well. And Nikaido is also best boy, as we know. He is an impeccable man. He is our favorite, as they say. So yeah, all in all, 100% amazing episode. I would say probably my favorite episode of the season so far. Just for the same reason, it just had everything I wanted, and actually even more. So yeah, that has been me for today. So I actually have to cover Ancient Magus Bride next, I think. I believe the next anime to come out, I believe. So, until then, I've indeed been Driver. If you did enjoy this whole entire stream, then do leave a like, because indeed it does me quite a bit. If you have enjoyed what I do here and you want to stay a little bit longer, then do leave a sub, because indeed it does me quite a bit. But until a 15-20 minutes with Ancient Magus Bride, I shall see you guys later.